Okay, so our next topic is about the skeletal system. Okay, so the skeletal system is composed of bones, or also known as the osseous tissue. So it is formed by osteoblasts or osteocytes. So the cells that forms the osseous tissue are the osteocytes. It is a dense, with hard and relatively rigid organic matrix that is formed by the collagen and with mineral deposits and calcium carbonate. Okay, so what are the different functions of the bones or the skeletal system? So number one is supporting framework. Okay, so it forms the supporting framework of the body. So in order to have the size and the shape of the body, so we have there the skeletal system. Number two is to provide areas for attachment of muscles. So in order for us to move, the muscles are attached to the bones. Next, number three is protect vital internal organs like the heart, lungs, and other parts that other organs within the thoracic cavity. So nandun kasi yung mga vital internal organs natin. And also the brain. Ayan, sa atin namang cranium. Okay, next number 4 is storehouse of essential minerals. And number 5 is production of red blood cell and white blood cell that is being produced in the bone marrows. Okay, for the next one, let us discuss about the structure and composition of bones. So this one, we have here one type of bone known as the long bone. So mamaya di-discuss ko yung 5 types of bone. But then, let us first discuss the structure of the bones. Okay, so for the first one, we have what we call this one, itong long bone na to. Simula dito hanggang dito sa dulo, the two ends, ayan. This is known as the shaft. Okay? And yon, long bones are characterized by a shaft. And then it has two major parts, the epiphysis and diaphysis. So epiphysis is located at the two ends of the bone and diaphysis dito sa middle. Actually, meron pang isa bago yung part na epiphysis and diaphysis. Between epiphysis and diaphysis, we have metaphysis, wherein it is the region wherein epiphysis and diaphysis meet. So, ang tawag naman dun is epiphysis. Okay, so in the part of epiphysis, we have here the articular cartilage. So, makikita nyo dito din sa kabilang epiphysis, may articular cartilage. Articular cartilage covers the joints. Ayan, so dun sila makikita. It is a form of permanent cartilage that covers the ends of the bones. The next one is we have here the spongy bone. Ano naman tong spongy bone? The spongy bone, loose siya. Ayan, kung makikita nyo para siyang sponge. And then, it absorbs mechanical shock because it's not entirely solid. Okay? It contains also the red marrows. So, yung makikita nyo dyan, yung mga pula dyan, red marrows yun. That produces, of course, the red blood cells and most of the white blood cells. So, red and white blood cell yung pinoproduce niya. Next, nakikita nyo din dito yung epiphyseal line. So, it separates yung mga marrows, yung epiphyseal line. Here in the diaphysis, we have here the medullary cavity or the medullary canal. So, it is the central portion of the shaft. Itong buong shaft na to, that contains the yellow marrow. So, dito yon. Okay, so ano naman yung yellow marrow? If the red marrow is for production of red blood cell and white blood cell, so the yellow marrow is for the production of fat cells or for the fat storage. It has blood vessels also that contains only a few white blood cells and few white blood cell production. So, ayun naman yung sa yellow marrow. Yun yung sa bulalo, yung gusto nyo kinakain. Yung fat storage yun, di ba? Okay, next. We have here nutrient foramen, endostrum, and periosteum. Okay, so what is the function of the periosteum? So in periosteum, it is a membrane that covers all of the bones. That's why it makes the bone color white. Okay. It is a living membrane which is richly supplied with blood vessels. The function of the periosteum is to cover, of course, the bone for tissue repair and bone nourishment. Okay? So, yung endostrum naman, it covers, kung yung periosteum, kino-cover niya yung buong buto. Yung endostrum naman, kino-cover naman niya yung mga medullary cavity. And also, we also have Haversian canals inside this medullary cavity. Haversian canals are network of canals running throughout the bony layer. Ayan, so sa ilalim ng periosteum to makikita, which contains blood vessel. Okay, so ayun lang naman yung mga importanteng parts ng bones. Okay? Okay, so ayan na pala yun. Ayan yung shaft, spongy bone, articular cartilage, medullary canal, and Haversian canal. So, balikan nyo na lang yan. So, ayan naman lahat yung sinabi ko about sa parts of the bones. And then, we also have here joints. Joints are the points at which two bones meet or met. Ayan. So, yun yung joints. So, for every joint, end of the bone, meron tayong articular cartilage in order to prevent friction between the two bones. Next, okay, we have there the cartilage. So, if the bones are made of osteocytes, so cartilage are made of the cells, chondrocytes. Ayan. So, we have the different types of cartilage. So, the first one is hyaline cartilage. It covers joint surfaces, especially the rib ends. So, it is also present in the nose, dito sa ating nose, and tracheal rings. And also, it is found in the skeletal system of adult sharks and stingrays, also in the skeleton of vertebrate embryos. So, hyaline cartilage yun. Next, number 2, we have elastic cartilage. So, we can find elastic cartilage in the external ears of the mammals. So, sa ears ng mammals, nandun yun sa atin. Next, number 3 is the fibrocartilage. Ayan, so mali yung spelling ko dyan. Fibrocartilage, it is the most resistant. It is the pads between the vertebrae, so especially in pubic symphysis. So, saan ba yung pubic symphysis? Ayan, so ito, sana nakikita nyo itong picture. Ayan. So, yun yung nasa gitna. That is the pubic symphysis. So, meron din dong cartilage. Okay. It is there sa joints para ma-protect niya from severe strains. Ayan, and friction. So, next is, we have the 5 types of bones. Number 1 is the long bones. So, na-discuss ko na kanina yung long bones. It is characterized by shaft. So, kaya nga sa long, kasi mahaba siya. It is mostly comprised of compact bones. So, it is found in the bones of the limbs, including the fingers and the toes. Okay? And then, dito sa ating long bones, it is also found, ano ba yung mga nasa limbs natin? Yung femur, which is the longest bone that we have. The tibia and fibula, and the radius and ulna. Okay, so doon yung long bones natin. So mamaya malalaman nyo ano ba yung mga tibia, fibula, radius, and ulna. Okay. Next, we have short bones. So short bones are roughly cube-shaped bones. and have only a thin layer of compact bone surrounding a spongy interior. Okay, so the bones of the wrist and the ankle. So kung makikita nyo yung picture dito. So ganyan yung bones sa ating wrist, ankles. Yun yung metacarpals natin. Ito yun. And metatarsal sa ankle naman. So that is the second type, short bones. Next, we have flat bones. So these are thin and curved bones that can be found in the skull and the sternum. So, yung ating skull kasi, it's made up of uh, five. Mamaya balikan natin. 5 flat bones. So, it is being joined by sutures na tinatawag. So, mamaya malalaman nyo din kung ano yung sutures. Next, we have another type, irregular bones. So, it's called irregular because it's irregular in shape. It does not have a definite shape and size. It is found in the bones of the spine and the hips. So, sa ating vertebral column, ito yon. Ayan, irregular bones naman yung matatagpuan doon. Next, we have the last type of bone, which is the sesamoid bone. It is embedded in the tendons. Okay, so since they act to hold the tendon further away from the joint, dito, kailangan yung force of muscle is increased. So, supporting talaga to. Supporting bone siya. So, example of sesamoid bones is patella. So, patella is the kneecap. Ito yon. And the pisiform. So, pisiform is located in our hands sa metacarpals. Ayan. So, dito sa metacarpals natin. So, ito yung pisiform. So, kung mapapansin nyo, same sila ng shape. Ayan. Nung sa patella and dito sa pisiform. Okay, the next, ayan na. Ito na yung structure of the skeleton. So, in the different regions of the body, we have the axial region and appendicular region. So, same lang yung gagawin natin dito. I will first discuss about the different bones in the axial skeleton. And again, it is divided into 3 parts. So, we have the skull, vertebral column, and the thoracic basket. Okay, so ayan yung mga under nun. I-discuss ko rin naman siya isa-isa. Next, so dito naman tayo sa appendicular skeleton. So, we all know that appendicular consists of our upper extremities and lower extremities. Kaya lang ito, meron siyang medyo kabilang din sa upper part ng thoracic basket. Okay, and lower part ng thoracic basket. So, we have the pectoral girdle and the pelvic girdle. Okay, and the forelimbs and the hind limbs. Okay, so let's discuss now for we have the axial skeleton. So, under the skull, we have the cranium. Ito yung buong cranium. Okay, so that's the skull. So, we have the different sense capsules. So, ano ba yung mga sense capsule natin dito? So, sense capsules, it contains lahat ng may senses natin. So, dito sa eyes, so that is a sense capsule. May butas siya. That's why it's a capsule. It encapsulates the eyes. So, sense capsule siya for sense of sight. So, we have here sense capsule also for the ears. And then, dito rin, kapag binuka to, so sense capsule din yan for the mouth. Nose, it's also a sense capsule. So, the nose, the eyes, the ears, the mouth, dun yung parte ng sense capsules natin. Okay, next we have the visceral arches. So, in the visceral arches, we have the jaws. Etong jaw o panga, the bone there is called as the mandible. In the upper jaw, we have here the maxilla. So, the mandible and the maxilla for visceral arches. We also have here, hindi lang medyo kita. So, kung nakikita niyo yung video ko. So, dito sa leeg natin. So we have here the hyoid. Ayan, so medyo hindi pala kita yung sa video ko kung ituturo ko lang dito. So naghanap ako ng picture. Ito, makikita nyo na. So we have here the hyoid. So kabilang dito sa visceral arches. So ito yung mandible natin, yung baba, dyan sa may baba. And then hyoid, ito yung hyoid bone. And we have here the larynx. So yan ay kabilang sa mga visceral arches. Ayan, kasi lahat sila pa-arch or pa-arc yung shape nila. So the mandible, hyoid, and the larynx. Also, since capsules are known as sinuses. Ayan. So sinuses, yung kabilang yung ating eyes, nose, ears, and mouth. Kaya 'di ba kapag meron tayong cold or kaya cough, naapektuhan yung sinuses natin na tawag. So naapektuhan yung sense of sight natin, minsan nagluluha tayo, yung nose natin syempre dito hindi tayo makapagsalita ng maayos, and our ears na parang nabibingi tayo. So yun yung sinuses or sense capsules natin. And then, we also have here in the cranium, kung makikita nyo, meron tayo dyan tinatawag na suture. Ayan, coronal suture, squamosal suture, lambdoidal suture, and where's the other? Yan. So, we have those sutures. Ano yung suture na yon? So, these are zigzag lines. Ayan, that join the 8 immovable and interlocking cranium or cranial bones. Okay, so yan yung ano-ano ba yung mga cranial bones natin. So meron tayo ditong frontal bone. Ayan, frontal bone dito sa noo, yan, frontal bone. Parietal bone dito sa taas, parietal. Temporal bone dito, ayan. So sa may sentido, sa bawat sentido, and occipital bone sa likod. So, it covers also the lobes of the brain, yung frontal lobe, parietal lobe, temporal lobe, and occipital lobe. Bawat isang lobe ay merong naka-assign na bone sa kanila. Okay, so yung iba naman dyan, hindi na masyado very detailed na yung names ng bones. So, ang kailangan nyo lang tandaan, yung maxilla, mandible, the different bones, cranial bones, frontal bone, parietal bone, temporal bone, and occipital bone. Of course, the cranium, the skull, the sense capsules, and the visceral arches. Okay. Next, we have, ayan na, so vertebral column. So, in vertebral column, we have here a different regions. We have the cervical. Ito naman yung cervical. Ayan. So, 1 to 7. So, we have 7 bones for the cervical curvature. We have 1 to 12 thoracic. Ayan. So, 12 naman dun sa bones of sa thoracic natin na vertebral column. Sa lumbar natin, meron tayong 5 bones. And sa sacral natin, meron tayong 5 bones also. Okay? Doon sa sa vertebral column natin, we have there tinatawag nating sacral. Ito yon. But then, yung pinakadulo, tinatawag natin siyang coccyx. C-O-C-C-Y-X. Okay, coccyx or the tailbone. So, yun yung bones composed sa ating vertebral column. Cervical bones, thoracic bones, lumbar bones, sacral, and caudal bones. Caudal, yun. Ito din yun yung tailbone. Caudal bone or the coccyx. Next is, we have here the thoracic basket. So, for the thoracic basket, it is composed of the ribs and, of course, the sternum. Okay? So, sternum is at the center. Ayan. Ito yung sternum. And then, we have different kinds of ribs. Ayan, tinatawag nating true ribs, false ribs, and floating ribs. So, ano yung true ribs na tinatawag? So, nahati yung ribs pa rin sa tatlo. Again, true ribs, false ribs, and floating ribs. Dun sa true ribs, it is the first 7 pairs. It is called true ribs because it is attached to the sternum. Okay, so we have here 7. Tingnan natin kung tama to. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So, 7 pairs. Ayan. Yung naka-attach nga sa ating sternum. Next, we have the false ribs. The false ribs are the next 3 pairs after the true ribs. It is not attached to the sternum. So, itong tatlong to. Ayan. 1, 2, and 3. Ayan. So, the next 3 pairs. And then, we have here the floating ribs. Ito. Yung floating ribs are shorter and they are unattached to the other ribs. So, ito yon. So, 1 and 2. So, yung dalawang yun yung floating ribs. So, yun lang yung important dun sa ating thoracic basket. Okay. So, let us now discuss the appendicular skeleton. So, dun muna tayo sa pectoral girdle. Pectoral girdle because it is yung pecs kasi na tinatawag or yung pectorals natin, yung malapit dito sa ating chest. So, we have here the pectoral girdle. We have the scapula, this one. Ito yung nasa likod natin. It's the shoulder bone, the scapula. We also have the clavicle. So, yung collarbone na pinagmamalaki ng iba dyan. Ayan. So, yung collarbone lang daw ang labanan. And the coracoid. So, the coracoid is ito yun, yung maliit na yan. Ayan. So, it is the extension siya ng scapula natin. Ayan. So, again, we have 3 parts for the pectoral girdle. We have the scapula, clavicle, and the coracoid. Next one, doon naman tayo sa baba. Medyo baba ng thoracic basket. So, sa appendicular na rin siya kasama. The pelvic girdle. So, in the pelvic girdle, we have here the ilium, pubis, and ischium. Okay, so ilium, ito yon. So, we have the ilium. And then, iliac crest. Yung lining ng ilium is known as the iliac crest. And then, we have the sacrum. Ito yon, yung sacral natin, di ba, kanina, sa vertebral column. The coccyx or the tailbone. The ischium that connects the iliac and the pubic arch. Ayan. So, ito yung pubic arch and then we have the pubic symphysis. Again, pubic symphysis is a type of fibrocartilage. Okay, para hindi masaktan yung dito sa pubic part natin. Okay, so yun yung parts ng pelvic girdle natin. So, we have the main parts such as the ilium, pubis, and ischium. So, ito yung pubis. Yan. Next, we have here the forelimb. So, sa limbs na tayo. We have there the humerus. So, the humerus, ito yun. So, humerus, this one. And for the radius and the ulna, ayan. So, ang radius, ito, and ulna. Radius, kapag naka-front ka, nakaharap ito sa unahan, ang radius is ito. Ayan. Yung mahabang side, that is the radius. And then, ulna is the shorter one. And then, we have the carpals or the wrist, the bones in our wrist. The metacarpals, dito siya. Yan. And the phalanges. Phalanges are the fingers. Ayan, bones in our fingers. Ayan. So, yung mahaba, it's the proximal. And the distal, yung maiksi. So, proximal, middle, and distal. Yun, nahati pa dun yung phalanges. Next, we have for the hind limb. So, for the hind limb, we have the longest bone, which is the femur, that can be found in our thighs. Next is tibia and fibula. So, but before tibia and fibula, we have here the patella or the kneecap. So, the tibia, yun yung nasa unahang buto natin, kung maaapa nyo dyan. Yun yung tibia sa legs natin. And then, fibula, yung nasa likuran. Okay. Next, tarsal, sa ankle natin yun. And metatarsals, so sa ating feet. And phalanges sa toes. Okay. And yan, nahahati pa rin yung, we have different names for the bones in our feet. So, after the tibia, we have there the talus, navicular, and the cuneiforms. And yung pinaka-ankle mismo is the calcaneus, the cuboid, yung sumunod doon, the metatarsals, and of course, the phalanges. Okay? So, yun muna. Yan. So, balikan ko muna itong sa bones dito sa feet natin. So, the bones in our feet or in our, ayun nga, sa feet natin, we have there 7 tarsal bones. Okay, so ano ba yung 7 tarsal bones? Yung mga binanggit ko kanina, the first is the talus. Okay. It allows movement of the ankle. And then we have there the largest tarsal bone, yung calcaneus natin. It's also known as the heel bone. Heel bone, H-E-E-L bone. And then, yung calcaneus and talus, it helps us to support the body weight. Ayan, or our body weight. And the remaining tarsals, we have their cuboid, and sa outside na yan ng calcaneus, navicular, and yung mga lateral natin, which is yung cuneiforms. So, yun yung pito. Tama ba? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Meron pa kasing isa doon. Ayan. So, yun lang muna dahil ito, within 30 minutes na yung video for this part. I-discuss ko pa yung tendons, ligaments, and then the different ailments in the skeletal system.